there was already going to be a recess after a couple of weeks of Parliament for the conference season, with the Liberal Democrats, the Labour Party and the Conservatives going off to conference in various parts of the country, which we're going to at least 2 of those as well. So they were already going to have a recess of around about 3 weeks anyway. But there's a difference between a recess and a prorogation, and then at the extreme level, a dissolution, a dissolving of Parliament as well. We'll leave that latter scenario just for the moment, because we're not talking about a general election just yet. So there was already going to be this break as well, but it is unprecedented for a couple of reasons. One, the length of it. To have 23 working days taken out at this time seems quite unprecedented, given the constitutional crisis we are seeing around the approach to this October 31st date as well. Parliamentarians are moaning that actually they've lost valuable debating time, valuable time potentially to thwart Boris Johnson as well. But actually, as one commentator pointed out, actually the number of days that have physically been lost compared to what we're going to be lost anyway is about 4 days. So parliamentarians have actually lost around about 4 debating days. But, of course, one of the tactics of the opposition to Boris Johnson was to potentially take away that recess. So, again, they were looking for a longer period to debate and potentially put in new standing orders in Parliament to thwart Boris Johnson. We'll talk about that and their measures of what they're going to try and do next, potentially after we hear from opposition politicians and why they're so angry with Boris Johnson, starting with the leader of the opposition.
What the Prime Minister's doing is a sort of smash and grab on our democracy in order to force through a no-deal exit from the European Union. What's he so afraid of that he needs to suspend Parliament to prevent Parliament discussing these matters?
If MPs don't find a way of coming together next week to stop Boris Johnson in his tracks, then today will go down in history as the day any semblance of UK democracy died.
This is an outrageous power grab by a Prime Minister who is unelected in terms of the people of this country. A tiny proportion of people have voted him in as Prime Minister.
It is profoundly undemocratic to shut Parliament down, to stop it doing its job at a time of national crisis like this.
So here we are today. Boris Johnson is saying this is about my domestic agenda. We've had one of the longest parliaments since the Civil War in the 1600s as well. It's been virtually a 2-year parliament. Normally they're around about a year. So in order to bring forth a new agenda about National Health Service, about crime, about infrastructure, this is why I want to prepare for a Queen's speech as well. But a lot of people are saying that's disingenuous. We know that this is about thwarting opposition plans to thwart your hard Brexit, potentially on October 31st. So what can the opposition do next? Well, there's some brilliantly helpful articles out there. Been reading all over the place, and credit to the BBC and to the Times and other places where I've been looking in as well. But one article in the Times put it, so there's around about 6 options, and let's just go through those very, very quickly. One, that the opposition can now try to get forward a standing order debate as well, an emergency debate followed by a vote at the end of it, which would take away parliamentary process. Standing Order 24, take it away from the Prime Minister and put it in the hands of Parliament, who could then try and enact law to force Boris Johnson to seek an extension to the Article 50 deadline on October 31st. The problem with that is it would have to go to the House of Lords as well, and despite the House of Lords predominantly being pro-Remain, there are enough Brexiteers within there who could potentially filibuster, who could basically wind down the clock on that proposal. So that's one option, taking over the court business of Parliament behind me. 2, the no confidence vote, and this is where it diverges into 2 different options. 1, a no confidence vote where no one else could form a government. Then Boris Johnson could potentially say, right, we'll go for a general election. And this is where his promises, his issues that he's putting forward in the Queen's speech could very quickly turn into an election manifesto. If he does that, he gets to choose the timing of the general election. And guess what? Many people are saying that it will be just after Britain leaves the European Union on October 31st. So Brexit still takes place. The other no confidence scenario is that a coalition of interests, including some Remainer Conservatives, could then form a caretaker government, which would then force an extension of the Brexit process, of the Article 50, and then go for a general election on their terms, i.e. we could have a general election on Boris's terms or a general election on the Remainers' terms. Those are 2 different options that could happen on a no-confidence vote. The third option, of course, is that he wins a no-confidence vote, but with a majority of only 1, and the fact that there are rebel Tory MPs on the Remain side, that seems unlikely. Other scenarios: 1, there could be a humble address which could go back to the Queen and saying, you've got the wrong advice, can you take back the prorogation that you did, Your Majesty, as well? That's an interesting scenario. seems like an outlier at the moment, won't necessarily happen. Then there's the court side of things as well. Various strains going on here. You can have the likes of Gina Miller, the likes of Sir John Major going forward through the courts as well, trying to get this reversed. Well, seems tough to do. Could there be a judicial review? Yes, maybe, into whether this was unconstitutional of what Boris Johnson has done at this moment in time. And the third strain on the courts is a lady called Joanna Cherry, who's putting this through the Scottish courts at the moment. She's a Justice Minister over at the SNP. One more scenario for you, and this one seems quite extraordinary, but I liked it. It was in the Times then. It was very interesting. Mrs May's withdrawal bill comes back. How about that for a scenario? i.e. the Remainers think there's no other option to us, let's bring this forward back again, because we would be in a new Parliament, because it would be after the Queen's speech, and you'll recall you can't bring back the withdrawal bill in its same form in the same Parliament, but because if we had the Queen's speech and we were back in a new Parliament, maybe that withdrawal bill would come back, which of course would be a lot closer association. It would be almost a little bit of a defeat for those who want no Brexit at all, and it would be a defeat for those who want a hard Brexit, but it is a scenario which can't be discounted at this stage. So lots of ways this can go forward, guys.
Hi, I'm Joanna Bersecci, and thank you for watching. You can check out more of our videos by clicking on the boxes on the screen. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more from CNBC International. Thank you for watching.